It's the Score North Twin Show.
So last night, Twins fall behind. This happened on Friday night too, where you just get hit upside the head with a crooked number, and now you're digging out for the rest of the game. Twins fall behind 4-0 last night. They battle back. They tie the game. The rain hits. The bullpen comes in after Pablo Lopez struggles. The bullpen comes in. We get, especially Alcala and Jax and Duran, lights out, no hits, no walks, some strikeouts. So we figured it's a good time for Declan to bring his updated bullpen power rankings, bullpen trust tree rankings to the show here. The Twins are on the grid as well, so we'll do an Immaculate Grid. But Dex, let's do this. Let's give us your relievers right now in the order in which you trust them. And Judd, are you doing this too, or are we just going to judge Declan's ranking?
Just judge Dex.
Okay.
He's there.
Okay.
Good idea. By the way, before I give my ranking, I went back and found the ranking that I gave Judd. Phil, I don't think you were on that episode when I gave the preseason one, so it was just me and Judd. So this was the ranking going into the season. Duran 1, Griffin Jax 2, Justin Topa 3.
Oh, man.
That made sense back then.
Brock Stewart 4.
Yeah. Well.
Caleb Thielbar 5.
Ugh.
Jay Jackson 6.
Ugh.
Steven Okert 7. Jorge Alcala number 8.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So that was the preseason ranking.
Okay.
And with this ranking, I am only giving you guys that are currently on the bullpen. I'm not giving you guys that are injured. I'm not giving you guys that could be in the bullpen by the playoffs. I am just giving you the arms on the GD active roster as of this moment. So no projection, no assumption once injuries come back. Just the exact guys that are available in that bullpen as of right now.
That's all you got.
Okay. Number 1, still Duran. Still Duran. So I know I have been tepid a little bit. He's had some BABIP bad luck for sure. It took him a little bit to build up the velocity back to where it should be. That was more of a mechanical thing than it was necessarily a physical ailment that was hurting Duran. But he is still throwing 102, throwing triple digits, blowing hitters by. And even though some of those BABIP plays have happened, he's actually become kind of forced to being a lot better at his PFP. And when he comes in, man, it's just an electric moment. So Duran is still number 1 in the bullpen trust tree.
Yeah. I think he was always going to correct course. And what's funny, too, is his velocity is a little down, and he's still throwing 100.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about him, that his velocity can be a little off, and he's still one of the hardest throwing pitchers in all of baseball. So, okay.
All right.
Number 2, Griffin Jax. So this is still a 1-2 punch that I had going into the year. But I will say the gap between the 1 and the 2 is, you could call this 1A, 1B.
Yep.
And you might feel just as comfortable with Griffin Jax in the game as Duran. Jax has been that damn good. He has been incredible this year.
Yeah.
He's been probably the best setup man in baseball, and no one talks about setup men in baseball. They're very unsung heroes, but he has taken a significant step forward this year. He added a curveball to his mix, too. That's been really good. He is just as good. The Twins have a legit 1-2 punch here on top of their bullpen to get 6 outs when needed going into the 8th inning, and it's about as good as it gets with Duran into Griffin Jax.
I think Griffin Jax not only is having an outstanding year, but if I was the Twins, if I was Falvey and Baldelli, I would pull Varland aside. And I would say, I want you to go talk to Griffin Jax, because he's another guy who at one point in time had his heart set on starting, right? Saw himself as a starter. I think he did it, obviously, but I think he reluctantly made the move. And this guy now is going to make a lot of money based on the fact that he clearly embraced this role and is damn good. And that to me is why you can't say, well, I'm a failed starter and now I'm in the bullpen. No. You are very good at what you do. And Varland, I think, very much could profile in this type of way, at least.
And Jax, I forgot how many starts he made in 2021. He started 14 games in 2021 for the Twins.
Yep.
ERA of 6.37. You know, I don't have Varland's major league ERA in front of me, but can't be that much better than 6.37 to this point.
No.
And it was right around the same age where you're like 26, you're struggling to go through a second, third time through the order. What is your future here? Now, Varland would look and say, yeah, it's great. Griffin Jax, he's lighting it up as a reliever, and he's a big strikeout guy, and he makes less than $1 million a year. I want to make starter money at some point, and that's why I want to stay on this track. But you know what? Lights out relievers make a lot more money than failed starters.
Correct.
If by failed, I mean like unable to stick in the major leagues as a starter. And so I like Judd's theory on this, that at some point does Louie Varland join Griffin Jax as a similar story, just sort of 4 years later.
And Jax will get paid for sure.
Yeah, maybe not by the Twins because they don't
Correct.
dish out a ton of money to
That's
relievers.
why Varland could be there to take his place.
Yeah. Well,
Just throwing it out there.
all right.
All right, next guy on the list, shooting up to number 3, Jorge Alcala. I think Alcala has earned this right now.
Wow.
And he was kind of a whipping boy for them to start the year. He was their mop-up guy. He was their guy that you send out there to throw for 42 pitches, and then you option him off the roster afterwards. He's been on the train back and forth between St. Paul and the Twins a lot. But lately, they have been asking Alcala to get some big time outs. And I think of all the other options after Duran and Jax, if you were to ask me right now to build out your trust tree, I think Alcala's third, dude. His stuff is as good as anyone's. He has finally kind of graduated from, that mop-up role to having to get legitimate outs. So I have Jorge Alcala shooting up these power rankings. He is the third guy in the bullpen trust tree.
Yeah, this dude's been intriguing for 5 years, and there's been some command things that he's had to work through, and then some injury things. And I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that, he's going to give you some adventures and he's going to dish out some walks from time to time. But just in terms of really hard to hit stuff, he's really high up in the Twins organization. And so I love this man. He's finally now doing what you hoped and thought he would do like 4 or 5 years ago, which is because there was a time we were talking about him as before Duran came up. Is Alcala your closer? Is he someone that once Taylor Rogers goes away a few years ago, does he jump in and become the closer at some point?
Yeah.
And now obviously there's a pecking order there, but yeah, this is not like a fluke or a surprise. He's had stuff and he's had potential for 4 or 5 years.
That arm is seductive. There's no question about it. It's a seductive arm.
Very seductive. Yeah. A
It is.
glistening, seductive arm. Yes.
It's a seductive arm. That's why he's still here.
That's
Yes.
phenomenal.
Seductive. I think we need to use that
Seductive.
word more when talking about baseball arms. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, number 4 for me, Steven Okert. So I think Okert has leaped Thielbar for obvious reasons as the main lefty out of this bullpen.
Yeah.
Okert's fine. He gets a lot of weak contact. In fact, his average exit velocity of opponents when they knock him up is in the 95th percentile. So he's getting very low contact when people are making contact against him. He is dominant against lefties. Righties are still trouble for him. Righties are still going to hit him pretty well, but he is their most reliable left-handed loggy option. And I know loggies have kind of gone away with the era of the 3-batter
Loogie.
minimum.
Loogies.
Loogie? Loggy. Loogie, because it's
Left-handed one out guy.
Tony
Loogies.
Fossis. Poster
Loogie.
child for the Loogie.
Yep.
But he's the best lefty in this bullpen. He's hard to square up against lefties for sure. So he's the next guy on this list.
Yeah. No, I think it would be nice to find a secondary lefty at some point here. Looks like we kind of talked about that the other day. Might have to come via trade at this point. But yeah, there's not much debate about who the most reliable left-handed reliever is in this bullpen right now.
No, not at all. Next on the list, Josh Staumont. So Staumont hasn't allowed a run yet.
Kind of crazy.
I thought he might be higher. Yeah, this is good.
So here's why he's low. He has only faced low leverage situations. He has faced this year, he has had 55 plate appearances against. in leverage situations, I'm trying to find this on the bajillion things on Baseball Reference, he has only faced 3 batters in high leverage situations so far.
Yeah.
They are very gradually bringing him along and putting him in situations to be successful. So yes, I mean, when you see a 0 ERA, no earned runs in, 14 appearances, that's a great start. But eventually he has to graduate from just, having big leads and low leverage situations into medium to high leverage situations. And until he shows you can do that, I can't really put him up too high. But he has been a very good addition to this bullpen, and he's the next guy in line.
And he is coming off of the dreaded thoracic outlet syndrome surgery, which we've seen a lot of guys try and come back and they don't. And so this is, and I want to say his last 2 years in Kansas City, his ERAs were very high. He didn't
About
pitch well.
6. Yeah.
Yes.
It was really bad.
Yes. But yeah,
but the 2 years before that in Kansas City,
good.
he was a sneaky, really good high strikeout reliever. So it's, again, this is a case where if this is the first time he's ever doing this at age 30, I would say get ready for the other shoe to drop. But he has been a proven, just a good, solid strikeout reliever. I don't know that he's a guy that you want climbing up to like 1, 2, or 3 at any point. I think it would mean that there's some major problems going on with some of the other ones. I'm fine with him just being like a low, medium leverage. If you're down 5-3 in the 7th and that's fine. You need guys like that in your bullpen, and sometimes you need guys like that to hold a team so that your offense can catch up. So, yeah, all right.
All right, next guy in line, just a few names left, 3 players left. Cole Sands, come on down. Cole Sands is next here. Now, I think in terms of what we've gotten from Cole Sands up to this point has been pretty damn impressive, considering, again, he was mostly a fringe guy that maybe shouldn't even be here at this point. I think he's made a really good impression on the bullpen, but he's also in the low leverage mop-up duty, like the sweat that had to take place on Sunday in game 1, for God's sakes, with a 3-run lead. And then you had to bring in Duran to get the last out. Like, just get the last out, guy. I think he's been a revelation in the pen. He's got a really nasty four-seamer fastball that's been really hard to square up and hit this year. Some of his breaking ball stuff, like his curveball's gotten knocked around a bit, but he's fine. You still need guys to build out the bullpen. And Cole Sands is a fine option, but he's on the lower tier in terms of leverage situations.
Yeah. 26 years old and a guy that was a 5th-round draft pick. So they had, and by the way, 5th round that's a pretty high draft pick in baseball. You say 5th round in NFL, you're like, the guy might not make the team. I mean, most 5th rounders don't wind up having great major league careers either, but like when he's a 5th round pick, that's a really good high school, college player that you're taking. And for him to be a guy that really nobody had on their radar as someone who was going to be a helpful arm this year, to being one of the best strikeout to walk ratio relievers in the entire league, baseball. I think you're getting a lot more from him than you ever thought. So bravo, Cole Sands and Twins pitching development.
So just 2 guys left here on the list. I actually have Caleb Thielbar 7th out of 8th.
Oh wow!
Right now,
okay.
That's kind of first controversial one I've heard.
It is, well, I mean, I'll you know who the 8th one is, but I mean, Thielbar has been here before. He's been here long. This is more of a respect ranking than it is like performance ranking. He hasn't pitched in a little bit after being roughed up. I'm sure there's more of a mental reset that's probably happening with him right now, and also maybe some adjustments physically. But he has fallen off. It's not terribly like a big surprise to me that he has fallen off from where he was the last few years as you get older. But right now he is 7th, which means Jay Jackson is obviously the last guy in this bullpen trust tree. I am curious though. Jay yesterday dialed up velocity that he had with Toronto last year. So he was touching 94. He was only hitting 91 in his first stint with the Twins. Now he's got a really good slider. And actually, if you go back and look at where that slider was hit for a home run yesterday, that's an incredible swing. Like that location of where that slider is placed, I tweeted it out. Like that's just a really incredible swing. That is not a Jay Jackson hanging slider over the middle of the plate by any means. That's just a good swing. If the fastball velocity has ticked back up to 93, 94, and he has that wipeout slider Jay Jackson does, actually Jay could shoot up some of these rankings, but right now I have him as the last guy, as kind of the last guy in the bullpen. So my rankings going into the bullpen trustee: Duran 1, Jax 2, Alcala 3, Stephen Okert 4, Josh Staumont 5, Cole Sands 6, Caleb Thielbar 7, Jay Jackson 8.
Okay.
How comfortable would you be? And I think I know the answer for the top of this list, Declan, going into the playoffs with this bullpen.
I'm pretty confident. I mean, I'm pretty confident with the first three. I mean, if Cole Sands, if Cole Sands and like maybe even Josh Staumont, if Staumont really does graduate from just low leverage great guy into a really good high leverage arm, I mean, now you got a fourth. Like now you got four options in the bullpen, and with starters going shorter and shorter, and with the Twins, to be honest, it's been like such a roller coaster ride with their starting rotation. At times, it looks like it's actually it was exceeding expectations. Yeah. Now we're at a point where it's like, oh no, they need another arm, and probably another legitimate arm, not just a guy to eat innings. Bullpens are just going to be taxed all the damn time, and playoff times are going to be no different. So if Staumont or Sands can kind of graduate into these top three, and maybe Louie Varland, like Judd is saying, also is part of this equation.
Yeah, where would he, if we were to stop the merry-go-round right now and say Varland is going to be in the pen, where would you project him to fit here?
Probably 5, 4 or 5. He's got good stuff, but I don't really know. I don't really know what they're trying to do with him. They wanted him to add more pitches. He's throwing the changeup a lot with the Saints. Then he comes up here, he doesn't throw it at all. He's got a hard fastball, and they want him to throw 2 to 3 innings, and then by the third inning, he gets hit around a little bit. Like if Louie Varland's gonna be a legit option, he's gonna be a 1-inning guy. Like him trying to get, I know Rock always says, well, we need all of our guys to get, maybe 4 or 5 outs. Well, no, you don't. You really only need a few of those guys to get 4 or 5 of the outs.
Well, he could get, to me, it's like, it's the second time through that's the biggest problem for him.
He can go 2, I think, for sure.
He could go 2.
I think he can go 2.
Yeah. When you start to look at, first of all, I've the top 3 relievers here, if Alcala stays healthy, and then Okert's fine. Like Okert against lefties too. Yeah. Where I start to look, okay, Staumont, I don't know that I'm relying on him to be like 8th inning 1-run game guy here. So that's kind of where I draw a line. I would say this: you're gonna use 9 relievers in the playoffs when you get there. You have 8 right now. You're gonna have like a 4-man rotation with 9 relievers. Can you trade for another lefty? Can you get Varland to be a reliever here at some point in the next 2 or 3 months, so that he's added to this list? And so now we're bumping Thielbar and we're bumping Jackson. We're moving Staumont and Sands down, and you're adding. So you got Duran, Jax, Alcala, Okert, another good, reliable lefty, and Varland coming in, and Brock Stewart. What's his status? He's got at some point come back?
I believe he's still doing his throwing program. It's a shoulder issue, which are always very, very scary. Okay. And this happened last year. I mean, the guy was lights out from the start of season through June, didn't throw a pitch all summer, came back in September and October, was great. So yeah, I think they'll be very cautious with him. But to your point, if he's inserted into the fold and he's a full go until basically the arm falls off, then he's also part of the equation. I mean, that's a good option too.
So if he comes back, and then one more thing on the Varland front. So in his career to this point, when he's facing a hitter for the first time in a game, those hitters are hitting 227 off of him with a 682 OPS, which is like, you'll take that all day long for a starting pitcher. So 682 OPS. The second time he faces a hitter, it jumps 200 points to 861. Yeah. The third time, it jumps 300 points up over 11. So for me, it's less about can Varland go multiple innings. He can go multiple innings. He just can't face a lineup or a hitter a second time.
You don't want him to come around. Yep.
So he could easily be a 2-inning weapon for you as a reliever, maybe even like part of a third inning, as long as he's getting guys out and not facing someone turning over a second or third time.
Yeah, because he gave up the 2-out hits and the 2 runs against the A's, if I'm not mistaken, in his 4th inning of work.
Yeah.
So he had actually gone fairly deep. I think the nice thing too is if he just accepts the pen, like if they send him there and he's like, okay, cool. We can get rid of hey, go to St. Paul and work on the changeup and work on this and work on that. You know, it
Yeah.
simplifies things. His life becomes easier.
Dude, it'll be, you'll be mad for like a couple days, and then your competitive juices will kick in, and you'll just be potentially a lights out reliever pitching in crazy high leverage
Which he was in the
situations.
playoffs against the Jays last year.
Yeah. Or you can be grinding out when you're down 6-2 because you can't get the lineup out for the second or third time through. Like, I don't know, go talk to Glenn Perkins, go talk to Griffin Jax. There's been a bunch of examples of guys recently in Twins history that really wanted to be a starter but became a great reliever. So, okay, before we get to the Immaculate Grid here, our friends at EcoFun are your summertime fun headquarters. EcoFun Motorsports has a full lineup of scooters, motorcycles, ATVs, side-by-sides, electric bikes, and as you see on the YouTube channel right now, the Watercraft 2024 Kawasaki and Yamaha Watercraft. So there's 2 EcoFun locations, Burnsville and then Forest Lake. Forest Lake has the Watercraft, by the way, if you're looking for that specifically. But stop in or go to ecofunmotorsports.com, your summertime fun headquarters, ecofunmotorsports.com. Tell them that the Score North Twin Show sent you in. And tomorrow night, we've gotten confirmation Declan will get access to the mound at CHS Field as he throws out the first pitch at tomorrow night's Saints game. Are you nervous at all for this or no?
No, I don't think I am. Not right now. Nerves could kick in, come game time. I don't think there'll be, the Joe Nathan twitching and sweating that takes place, but we'll see.
Yankee Stadium.
Or at the Metrodome.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. For a guy that was
Great
a
reliever,
damn good
but-
regular season, he didn't make you feel too good watching his body language.
Wow, there's just been a lot of shade today. JJ McCarthy's first pitch. Now poor Joe Nathan out of
Declan's
nowhere.
lashing out a little bit.
Nowhere.
He's lashing out. You can get your Saints tickets, whether it's tomorrow night or anytime this season, at saintsbaseball.com. Friday night fireworks this week. Also pickleball night on the 22nd with a ticket package to get your own exclusive Saints branded pickleball paddle. So check them out at saintsbaseball.com. We should tip our caps to the legendary Willie Mays, who passed away at age 93. He also played part of a season for the Minneapolis Millers back in, 1952, 1951?
51, I think, yeah.
So, yeah, I think he's the greatest all-around baseball player of all time. And when you look at the numbers, too, the guy, he missed 2 seasons due to military service, still hit 660 home runs. He was a 300 hitter, one of the greatest defensive outfielders we've ever seen in Major League Baseball. 20 All-Star games, 12 Gold Gloves, a 2-time Most Valuable Player, and one of the most iconic catches in the history of the game, going back that over-the-shoulder sprinting catch.
Probably the greatest 5-tool player that we've seen.
Which, by the way, to me means he's the greatest player. Like, if you're the greatest 5-tool player.
But I mean, I'm sure that, I'm sure there will be some who talk about Mantle and Teddy Ballgame, the greatest potentially hitter of all time. But yeah, I mean, what Mays could do on the base paths, and I was listening to, I think it was Costas last night talk about how Mays basically told the manager of the Giants, Herman Franks, you handle the dugout, I'll take care of the field. And he would position outfielders and infielders, and if they didn't do what he wanted, they'd get benched the next day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, I mean, this guy was absolutely incredible. Yeah.
I think just in terms, too, of, we're all baseball historical nuts, but, what his impact was on the modern era of baseball is something I don't think people maybe my age realize. Yes, Hank Aaron's the home run king, and Judd brings up great Yankees players and Ted Williams, but I think what Willie Mays did for modern baseball is not talked about enough. And maybe even the only person that I can really think of that revolutionized baseball in the last 30 years like him was Ken Griffey Jr. People know my age and Phil's age know Ken Griffey Jr. for the iconic swing and the swag and the backwards hat. And it was a different type of modernizing baseball. But maybe only Ken Griffey. And by the way, Willie Mays was still a better player than Ken Griffey, which is saying something crazy. We throw the GOAT term out all the time with athletes. Willie Mays legitimately is potentially the GOAT of baseball.
I heard some debate this morning too that like Buster Olney was making the rounds on ESPN and suggesting that they should make Willie Mays' silhouette the logo of Major League Baseball. I love that idea. The over the shoulder. If you see the freeze frame, the over the shoulder catch as the silhouette for the logo.
Yep.
I mean, Jerry West, who just passed away, is the longtime logo in the NBA. Willie Mays representing one of the first great black baseball players, one of the first great five-tool players, maybe the greatest five-tool player, excelled in every. I mean, the guy stole 339 bases on top of the 660 home runs, on top of hitting 300.
Yeah.
And scoring 2,000 runs, driving in almost 2,000 runs. It's, legendary.
I didn't see Mays play, but the sad thing that struck me in the last 5 to 10 years, too, is how many of those mythical, godlike guys have died now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bob Gibson's dead. Aaron has died. Kaline has died. Harmon died. Mays has now died. And I don't think that you had to see them play to be affected by the fact that they've passed, because that was probably, they encapsulate what baseball was as far as it was America's sport. Like football was not, and I know that's hard to believe now.
Yeah,
but,
the
basketball
point you just
was
brought
a
up,
footnote.
when Willie Mays was at his peak, think about that. From 1950, mid 50s through, I mean, he played till the early 70s,
yeah.
a couple of years with the Mets.
Yep.
But from like the mid 50s until the late 60s, the most popular sports in this country, in any order, were baseball, boxing, and horse racing. And then the NFL was climbing up in the 50s and the 60s. I mean, but the Super Bowl era didn't start until toward the end of Willie Mays' career.
Yep.
And to your point, basketball didn't start live televising its NBA finals until 10 years after Willie Mays was done playing. Yep. So he was this bright light star player in New York and San Francisco, by the way, two of the biggest cities in America, when baseball was the most popular sport. If the Patrick Mahomes, the Tom Brady of American sports.
In the 60s, the top of mind sports names were what? Mays, Aaron, Ali. Like think about that. Like how the 90s it was Jordan, right? And then became Tiger.
Jim Brown, maybe.
Yep, Jim Brown's a good
on the football
one.
side. Yeah.
But I mean,
Johnny Unitas.
But you just go back to, and I think the thing too, at that point in time too, the NBA and the National Hockey League were very regional sports at best, right? Like baseball was the national sport. It was. So, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, God, when I was probably 9 years old, maybe 10, it was like in the mid 90s, my dad took me to, there was like a sports memorabilia show in town, and Willie Mays was signing autographs. And I have family that lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. So when I was in Chicago, so when I was a kid, the Twins were my team, but the Cubs were kind of my secondary team. And then the Giants too, because I used to go to Candlestick, and then we'd go to the new Pac Bell Park when that was built. So I kind of like had the Cubs and the Giants as my secondary teams when the Twins were really bad, especially in the 90s. But so my dad took me to go meet Willie Mays, and I had gotten a souvenir Giants baseball from Candlestick the summer before. It was like this obnoxious orange baseball with a Giants logo on it.
Yeah.
And we went up, my dad introduces me. He'd never met Willie Mays, but he's like, Philip, this is one of the greatest baseball players of all time, Willie Mays. Could not have been nicer and more engaging. There's sometimes you go to those autograph shows and guys are just getting a paycheck and don't really want to be there. And Willie Mays took the time to ask baseball questions to everyone who went by. What position you play, young man? And I remember he had a really clean but unique signature, just a really methodical, just like Harmon Killebrew, where you can see the letters on it. He wasn't just scribbling it. Yep. And I still have that baseball to this day, almost.
Really?
2.5 decades later.
Well, that's awesome.
So Willie Mays, 93 years old, one of the greatest to ever pick up a bat and pick up a glove. Let's do an Immaculate Grid challenge here, gentlemen. The Twins are on the grid a couple days ago, and for the YouTube audience, you can see what we're attempting here. Look at
there's no ads playing on the Immaculate Grid, so I have to I have to close them that's going to happen throughout this grid, just FYI.
Okay. That's okay. Everyone's got to make some money with their...
That's
I mean,
right.
Immaculate Grid, I hope they're doing well because it's a brilliant invention on baseballreference.com. So we're looking for a twin who was a Pirate, a twin who had 30 saves in a season, and a twin who was a Silver Slugger. And then we're looking for a Red who was a Pirate, a Red who had 30 saves in a season, and a Red who was a Silver Slugger, plus a Red Sox who was a Pirate, a Red Sox who saved 30 in a season, and a Red Sox Silver Slugger. We're looking for as obscure players as possible so we can get a low rarity score, gentlemen. Those are the rules. Those are the parameters. Judd, which area would you... By the way, Silver Slugger started in 1980, I believe.
Yes.
So basically,
80.
like, who are great hitting players? These ads
Another
that
ad
pop up.
popping in.
Who are great hitting players that would have been the best hitter at their position in that year? That's what Silver Slugger is. So, Judd, where do you want to...
Should we start with twins?
The Pirates Twin Square. We've used Phil Dumatre for that one before. That's kind of the gold standard.
My contribution would be Midray Cummings, who was actually the key return to the Pirates in the John Smiley trade.
John Smiley would be another one.
It was John Smiley for Cummings and a throw-in pitcher by the name of Denny Nagel, who would, of course, pitch for the Gophers, who actually went on to a really good career.
Another Denny Nagel would be another one.
Yep. And Denny Nagel was a Pirate and a Red, right? Didn't he come around and pitch for the Reds eventually?
I believe toward the end of his career. Yeah. Rocky.
But anyway.
Chris Archer.
Yankees.
Chris Archer would.
Chris Archer, Garrett Jones.
Garrett Jones.
Yep.
That's a great
Rich Hill, I think, would work for the Red Sox and the Pirate Square.
And Twins.
Rich Hill would work
and
for
Reds. Did he pitch for the Reds too?
I don't know if he played for the Reds. God dang it.
But you do know this. If you need to buy whatever it is...
For the
Doctor's
audio audience, you have
orders.
no idea what we're talking about, but there are pop-up ads that keep jumping up on
Which
this
is new.
screen.
Which we've never seen before.
Another one from the early 90s, Todd Ritchie
Oh,
was a Twins pitcher who became a Pirate.
That's a good one.
that's a good one.
So, all right, between Garrett Jones, we've used Phil Dumatre before, so let's take him off.
Agreed.
Between Garrett Jones, Midray Cummings, and Todd Ritchie, who's going to be the lowest rarity score?
I think they're all pretty low. I mean, Todd Ritchie's a good one.
Okay.
I mean, I'm fine with that.
Todd, R-I-T,
Right?
Todd Ritchie.
CHIE.
Couple different
Todd
mouses
Ritchie?
here. Todd Ritchie.
There you go.
0.09.
0.09. Let's go.
Oh, he's got the old Bucco's hat on. That was actually a sharp hat.
Buckos.
Yep. Okay. 30 save Twins. I mean, the list is not long.
This is not going to be a good
Yeah.
rarity score, I don't think, right?
Glenn Perkins, Taylor Rogers,
Ricky Aguilera. Did Reardon get to 30
Reardon.
when he was here
Reardon.
in the 80s?
Reardon would be a
Reardon
Boston,
might be-
a Boston one too.
That's a good
Oh,
one. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
Good call.
Good call.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, we could plug that in. Well, Boston would. Oh, we'll go back to that one. Let's save Reardon though, because we might be able to.
Okay.
Eddie Gordado.
Yeah, I mean, just go through the closers. But I don't think there's any.
LaTroy never got to 30 in a year.
No, not even close.
No one.
Yeah.
Not here.
Wish he would have gotten closer in 2001. They would have made the playoffs.
Wow.
I think he blew 8 that year.
Friend of the show, too.
I like LaTroy. I just wish he would
Yeah,
have
but
pitched a
friend
little
of
better down
the
the
show, and you
stretch
just
in 2001.
Took a
I
shit
love the
at it.
shots that are being taken.
They
across
wouldn't
the
do that
board.
on Bally's. You can never work at Bally's. Or FanDuel, which is coming up next. FanDuel Network.
So what do we? So I would say if we're saving Reardon potentially for that Red Sox, Eddie Gordado, Taylor Rogers, Glenn, Aggie. I mean, Aggie's gonna be.
Yeah, he's going to be popular. Nathan's super popular. Who would be the least?
What
of
about
those?
way back? Is there any way backs that before Declan and I were born?
So the save was established in 1969, and the Twins had guys, but I don't know if they had. Back then you didn't necessarily have a closer per se. So like I could throw some names out, but I'm afraid they wouldn't have gotten to 30. That was pretty aggressive back then, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's fair.
So let's just pick one.
I would say, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys have any? I would say Taylor Rogers or Glenn Perkins. I think Gordado is going to be too everyday Eddie. You know.
Sure.
I'll do Perk.
Perk.
It's probably going to be like 5 or 10%.
4%.
4%. Okay.
Oh, the old beard, the old Perk beard.
Great.
Okay.
All right, Silver Sluggers.
I
Mitch
covered
Garver.
Garver.
Yep, Garver was a good one.
Forgotten one.
I covered the Josh Willingham Silver Slugger season.
That's right.
Where he hit like 35 home runs in left field.
Yep.
The hammer.
And couldn't play a lick of defense.
Yeah, Garver's a good one.
Yep.
Garver's a really good one.
I like Mitch because that is forgotten.
30 bombs in the Bomba squad season.
1%.
1%. Let's go.
Garf sauce.
How happy he is to be in Seattle.
Let's do the Red Sox. So they had a run of, Reardon in the early 90s. He went from Twins to Red Sox.
Yes.
And they had a run like in the early 2000s where at one point, I believe Derek Lowe was converted to closer. Wakefield, I think they were using in the bullpen at one point, but they had Keith Folk.
Yep.
They had
yes, they did.
Urbina was their closer at one point.
But who was the guy that closed for him in the, was it right before the aughts came to an end? Not Dice, because that was Dice K. They had a short-term guy who came in and was like really effective for 2 years, and then I think he.
Do we not want to use Reardon?
We can use Reardon. We can definitely use Reardon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's use Reardon.
But they've had a lot of guys. It feels like who've popped up.
Papelbon.
3%.
Yeah,
3%. It's tough. There's just not. There's not enough closers.
Silver Slugger for the Red Sox. You got a ton of obvious ones there, right?
Manny, Ortiz, Ellsbury, Pedroia. If you want to go back,
Veritek.
Problem is
Barrett. Yeah, he was. Him and Posada were the only two good hitting catchers.
Like did Jim Rice win one? But Jim Rice was obviously playing into the 80s.
Wade Boggs.
Wade Boggs, maybe. Yeah.
I
just feel there's so many options, and they're like, it's gonna be hard to get a rare one.
Oh yeah.
No, but the more options, the more rare.
But at the same time, I get that. But at the same time, there's just so many Red Sox fans and players that
Like which one are you saying?
But mathematically, we should be able to. I like the Veritek one. Veritek was much more of an offensive catcher than a defensive catcher.
Okay.
And it was.
There it is.
So he played for like 14 years. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
2%.
That's good.
Let's go.
Okay.
Like with goatee.
Okay.
Try Rich Hill. Is it too popular? Or do you guys have another one?
Rich Hill has played for so many teams. I don't know if it would be too popular or
Jason Bay.
I feel like that'll be popular.
What's that? Which one?
Jason Bay.
Jason Bay.
Tim Wakefield started his career with the Pirates.
But I also feel like
he'd be popular.
They know that too.
Yeah.
I got it. I can't imagine.
Let's go Rich Hill. I'm fine with Rich Hill.
Terribly high, right?
Yeah. I'm fine with Rich Hill.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Grunter. 9%.
9%. Ah. Okay.
Great
okay.
swear.
We're not going to set the world record for rarity score here.
It's hard with this one.
It is. Reds, Pirates, Twins. Well, Denny Nagel.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
But Mike Lincoln would be even better.
Oh, did Mike Lincoln? Oh,
Mike
wow.
Lincoln went. Lincoln went Twins to the National League. I think it was Pirates then Reds.
Oh my God.
But that was a Twins. He was a Twins draft pick, right? Twins prospect. He was definitely like a twin in his first part of his career.
Yep, for sure.
Mike Lincoln.
0.06.
Let's go, dudes.
Oh, and he's got the nice Buccos hat on. They should bring those back.
I think they were in the same rotation, weren't they? Mike Lincoln and Todd Ritchie.
Probably.
God help the Pirates.
For awful Pirates teams.
Kent Tekulve. Or no. I'm sorry. That's Pirates. Reds.
Danny
I
Graves.
had. You guys remember?
Randy Myers.
when I played
Myers.
fantasy baseball, Francisco Cordero, he was their closer for like 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Before
was.
they,
He was one of the best
Norm
closers
Charlton for a while, right?
Robbie Dibble.
Dibble. Yeah, because the Nasty Boys were Charlton, Dibble, and Myers. But yeah.
And
Cordero's good.
what's his name? John Franco. Was he Nasty Boy or was he before then? Before John Franco went and had the long Mets run, he had
he
like
wasn't red.
5
He was
or
not
6
a
years
Nasty
with the
Boy,
Reds.
as far as I remember. I think the Nasty Boys were the 3 guys who all had closer stuff. But
You said Randy Myers was the closer on the World Series team in 1990, which for us is obscure, but for Reds fans might not be.
Yep, I think
But then
Declan Point's the best.
Randy Myers then went to the Cubs because I remember him as a Cubs closer when I was a kid.
He was on my team,
And Rob Dibble took over.
my rotisserie team. I could tell you all about that team, but I won't right now.
So it's I would say it's between Cordero, Danny Graves is another one who is a multi-year closer.
Wow, I forgot about Danny Graves. That's right.
And then probably Rob Dibble.
Cordero.
Okay.
Cordero.
Francisco Cordero.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
3%.
3%. And then Reds Silver Sluggers that aren't Barry Larkin.
Votto,
Win one?
Brandon Phillips,
Eric Davis.
Yeah.
Jay Bruce.
Eric Davis.
Jay Bruce.
Jay Bruce.
Did
George
Paul
Foster.
O'Neill
Paul
win
O'Neill.
one there? Yeah, George.
Aaron Boone?
That I don't know.
Edwin Encarnacion. He wasn't quite the hitter that he became in Toronto, though.
No, Bench wouldn't have won one because that was
Trying to think of other
180.
old school ones. I feel like the modern ones, like Votto, Barry Larkin,
Barry Larkin's going to be out.
those guys are going to
Huge
be.
number.
Brandon Phillips is a good one,
I
but
feel like they just don't have a ton, even though they're an old franchise.
Eric
with
Davis is an interesting one.
Eric Davis was one of the best players in the. It was like him and Barry Larkin were the only.
But do you think he'd be super popular? Because Barry Larkin will be for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like Eric Davis would not be as popular. I don't know if Hal Morris was a really good hitter. He was a first baseman though. I don't know if he won a Silver Slugger. I liked Hal Morris. He hit for
Who were the
average really well.
what years did the Big Red Machine? Because 1980 is the
70s.
cutoff.
70s. So
Did any of those players were they dominant into the 80s?
80s. I don't remember if they were dominant.
When
as
did Johnny
Reds.
Bench? Well, it's Johnny Bench, so we're probably not gonna. If
Yeah,
he
but
is
Bench-
available, he'd be too popular.
Yeah. Joe Morgan, I think, was gone. I think he was gone from the Reds by about then.
Let's do Eric Davis.
I say we chance.
Let's do Eric Davis.
I say we take a chance here.
Eric
God, he was
Davis.
good. He was so good, man.
Oh, he was high.
Oh, 20. Okay. Okay. We
20
tried.
Was he 20?
20.
20%.
This is the part when you stumble into another fan base's players.
Yeah.
Eric
There's
Davis
only
was
10.
Wow. And
okay.
and for the
There's only
Twins,
9
it's
for the Twins, and we got one man.
Garver.
No one.
Well,
I mean,
what would Willingham have been? I wonder.
yeah.
I mean,
Probably
Garver at
pretty low.
1 is going to be. So, all right, there we go. All right, a little Immaculate Grid here
All right. Good stuff.
on the Score North Twin Show.
Good trust. Um,
We'll do at least one more episode this week, and then Declan has some extra innings content coming out. If you haven't already, click that like button, the subscribe button on the brand new Score North Twin Show YouTube channel that we just launched like 3 months ago. And we'll see you guys for a random twin of the week before the week is over.